Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to be diving into a true crime investigation that really forces us to look at the darkest, most unsettling edges of human connection. We're exploring a case that, on the surface at least, looked like a perfect match. You have two people finding purpose, finding chemistry, but beneath that really polished exterior lay a foundation of unchecked obsession that ultimately ended in a horrific crime. It's a psychological puzzle, and it's a chilling reminder of just how quickly the ground can completely fall out from underneath us.
It didn't start like a crime story. It started like a love story. Honestly, this is what makes this entire case so incredibly chilling. If you had looked at them right at the beginning, you wouldn't have seen anything unusual at all. You would have seen two people building something that felt entirely real. The most dangerous situations don't announce themselves with sirens, right? They hide right behind the comforting illusion of absolute normalcy.
Section 1. A quiet disappearance, when normalcy shatters.
So, let's walk through how this actually unfolded, because the timeline of panic didn't just happen all at once. One day, a man named Travis simply didn't show up for an event where he was expected. Now, at first, this didn't raise any immediate alarms. Life gets busy, people miss things, it happens. But the concern escalated fast. His calls started going unanswered. Then, messages weren't being returned. Slowly, that quiet absence turned into a very loud, very real dread among his friends. Finally, that concern turned into action, and someone actually went to check on him. And what they found? It changed absolutely everything.
The discovery was horrific, but the true shock wasn't just about what had happened, it was about exactly who it involved. The scene told a story no one expected, because the person connected to it was someone who had once been trusted. To really understand how a crime scene like this could be connected to someone so intimately close to the victim, we have to rewind a bit.
Section 2. A fatal connection, the illusion of stability.
Travis actually met a woman named Jody at a self-improvement conference. Initially, there was this incredibly intense, exciting spark. But as we know, intensity has a funny way of hiding instability. The connection moved so fast, but beneath it, something much quieter and much darker was taking root. That initial rush of chemistry evolved into growing control. And that control led to these incredibly unstable, cyclical breakups, where they were ending things, sure, but never completely separating. Ultimately, this chaotic loop culminated in complete and total rejection.
What's really insidious here is how subtle these hidden red flags were at the very start. We aren't talking about dramatic public scenes, we're talking about a constant, grinding need to know his exact location at all times. It was reactions that completely didn't match the situation. It was intense, over-the-top questioning. Travis noticed these changes, of course he did, but because he cared, he tried to be patient. He rationalized the jealousy. He gave her chances. He explained away the possessiveness as just a passing phase. But control isn't a phase. It's a foundation that slowly consumes the entire relationship.
And this dynamic eventually led to the exact psychological breaking point of the entire case. Travis finally made the decision to move on completely. He started creating distance, just trying to build a life free from all that emotional weight and tension. From the outside looking in, it looked like a totally normal breakup. But not everyone lets go the same way. To him, he was just creating healthy distance. But to Jody, this didn't feel like closure. Actually, scratch that. It felt like absolute rejection. And rejection, when you mix it with deep obsession, turns into something dangerously dark.
Section 3. Piecing together the evidence. The investigation begins.
Now, this is where the investigation gets incredibly compelling. As detectives zeroed in on Jody, they essentially watched a masterclass in shifting narratives in that interrogation room. Step 1 was calm denial. She didn't panic, she was completely controlled, flat out claiming she wasn't even in the state when it happened. But as the forensic evidence started to build, she moved to step 2, adjusted details. She changed her explanations entirely. Now, suddenly she was there, but she claimed masked intruders had attacked them both. She was just offering up these new versions of events to try and stay one step ahead of the detectives. Finally, when the evidence proving she acted alone became way too overwhelming, she abandoned the intruder story completely and pivoted to step 3, claiming it was self-defense.
This brilliantly illustrates the core conflict for the investigators. On one hand, you have Jody's demeanor. Calm explanations, completely controlled emotion, calculated pivots during questioning. But pitted directly against that, you have the hard forensic truth, undeniable evidence of planning. The story she told of fear, of things escalating out of nowhere, of pure panic, it simply did not match the physical reality of the scene. The evidence told a story of brutal premeditation. The whole cat-and-mouse game between Jody and the investigators was defined by this reality. Evidence doesn't rush, it builds piece by piece. Investigators noticed the small inconsistencies first, the little things, which then blossomed into massive contradictions. She was constantly trying to rewrite the script, but the mounting inconsistencies ultimately trapped her in her own lies. The truth caught up because she literally couldn't keep her shifting alibi straight against the silent, unyielding testimony of the crime scene.
Faced with undeniable proof that she was present and wholly responsible, her final pivot was an attempt to justify the irreversible violence. I had no choice. She claimed she was afraid, that it was this sudden life-or-death moment. But again, the investigators, and eventually the public, had to weigh those 4 words against a mountain of evidence that pointed not to a desperate act of survival, but to a calculated act of lethal obsession.
Section 4. The Trial in Truth. A National Obsession.
So the crucial point here is that this case became so much bigger than just a legal proceeding. It sparked a massive national debate. People were absolutely glued to the trial, analyzing her shifting courtroom behavior the exact same way the detectives had done in the interrogation room. Society started having these really loud conversations about relationship dynamics, toxic control, and the critical danger of ignoring those early warning signs. The legal verdict was decided by a jury, sure, but the cultural impact? That rippled out everywhere.
It really forces us to ask a terrifying question. How does a connection turn into something irreversible? This is the core mystery we've been unpacking today. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens in those blurred lines between past and present. It happens when contact doesn't fully stop, which just creates massive confusion. It happens when intensity is mistaken for genuine love, masking the severe instability underneath.
Cases like this don't just stay buried in legal records. They stay in our minds as profound warnings. Sometimes, the absolute biggest warning signs are the ones we just explain away. When we rationalize someone's constant need for control as them just caring too much, we cross a dangerous line. And as this tragic story proves, sometimes once that line is crossed, there is absolutely no going back.
We're going to leave you with this final thought. Look at the relationships around you. When intense chemistry masks quiet control, and when possessiveness is disguised as passion, what warning signs are you explaining away? Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer. Until next time, stay curious and stay aware.